Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the SEC this year, Fanta. I think that not only do they have who I think is the preseason number one team, the AP poll just came out and they have them as AP number two, but I would say that there are a solid 10 teams in total, including Alabama, that I think have a somewhere between like a puncher's chance and a very, very real chance of getting to the tournament. I think that there is more depth in this league than anywhere else in college basketball.
It's a tremendous conference that has upgraded year in and year out. About 7 or 8 years ago, they brought in some consultants to really look hard at why the league wasn't getting enough tournament bids. And whatever was said in those meeting rooms, those coaches had to have some honesty with one another because this league has now delivered the goods the last couple of years and could be the best league in college basketball this season if we see a couple of things in the Big 12 blink. A couple of teams just not live up to the expectations. The Big 12 still holds that title, but the Southeastern Conference is loaded with depth. And get this, when you look at the 24/7 sports portal rankings, team rankings for who did best in the portal, the SEC has 6 of the top 16 teams. Oh, and it doesn't hurt when you have, and in terms of buzz, as buzzworthy and intra-conference coaching move. Yes, even more so than Ed Cooley from Providence to Georgetown. Because we're not talking about Providence to Georgetown. We're talking about Kentucky. The Kentucky coach left for Arkansas. Yeah, the SEC is loads of fun.
I remember those meetings, Fanta, that you're talking about, and I think more than anything, I grew up, watching SEC teams, and there was not a significant investment in basketball. They had these gargantuan arenas, but that's about where it drew the line. There was no significant financial investment, not just in the head coaches, but the staff, the practice facilities, all that stuff. And as soon as that meeting happened all those years ago, it just started to trickle in, and we're now in the prime of it because the investment in basketball in that part of the country is substantial, and it's not just Kentucky anymore. Like you look around the league, you said 10 teams. It's it's very much inside the realm of possibility. It's Ole Miss and Oxford that used to be towards the bottom of the league. It's you bring in Oklahoma, who should probably be at the bottom, but tradition wise, guys, like they're still going to be in the mix for recruits on a year-to-year basis. So I think adding Texas and Oklahoma is going to be a lot of fun. Expansion before those two a few years back was obviously a big thing as well. But it's the financial piece that the SEC jumped into that's where it really changed the game for them.
Well, think about it like this, guys. If I would have told you in 2017 that the Louisville job and the Kentucky job both opened, and the head coaches at Ole Miss, the head coaches at Alabama, the head coaches at Auburn, the coaches at those programs of that, I don't want to say that caliber, but like that don't live up to the same kind of historical trend when it comes to college basketball. Those guys said no and got extensions at their schools and passed on like top 10 jobs in America. Like that's kind of where we are. And there's different reasons for all of them, right? Like I think that Nate Oates is happy. He has family in Tuscaloosa, and I think he's going to try to stick it out for, to make sure that his daughters don't have to move again while they are before they get kind of off to the college age. And, Bruce Pearl's got his son there and everything, but it's still, it's still those schools, those guys stayed at those jobs because of the financial investment, because of the money that is being spent on those programs, because of the way that they're able to raise NIL, because of the fact that I think it's like a league-wide mantra to say we're not just spending money on football, we're spending money on hoops too. So that was
here's the thing why it's easy too. And they say SEC, it just means more. There's some truth to that. And I'm not trying to like Gainesville. Where's the pro team? There's not one. Athens, Georgia, there's not one. Knoxville, Tennessee, there's not one. Ole Miss, there's not one. Tuscaloosa, Lexington, Arkansas, for God's sake. Like there's no pro team. It is SEC. Mm-hmm. It is SEC.
Yeah, Fanta, you had something to say there. You had something to say. Say it.
Well, it just means more feels like football. I mean, I'm sorry, but there's other college teams across the country where they're the only pro team in that town. And you know some of them that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Or are you just choosing to ignore me right now?
Creighton?
Creighton, Providence.
Sure.
Providence is its own little town.
That's fine.
The Friars are the pro team up there.
That's fine.
You could go all throughout and we could pinpoint things.
Well,
have you been to SEC? Have you been to SEC basketball?
What about Kansas?
Well, Kansas is another one too, but I'm talking about the entire league, Fanta. I'm talking about the entire league.
There is something about these college towns where you have all of these alums that love their university. And yes, they love football because football is king. We are still the United States of America. And no matter what happens, football is always going to be football, and it's always going to be football, and it's always going to be football. But a lot of these guys, and like T.O., you can attest, come from Clemson, right? Like, how many people in and around Clemson just love the university, that the Clemson University, right? Just love that area. And he's so mad about us talking about Clemson, he had to take off. But I do think that part of it, Fanta, is it's just like, once, I think this is the way that I would phrase it. Once you get a sport to the point that it is rolling in some of these like Southern college towns like that, then the alums will back it because, like, hey, you know what? It's fun and we're rooting on our school and we love our school. And I think that's what you are seeing here. And it just so happens they have football money because it's the SEC.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, look, I'll base this down as a sports fan here. My Guardians are taking on Rick Pitino's Yankees here over the next week and change. They're more than just Coach Pitino's Yankees, but he just sent a tweet out about how badly he wants to win this series. So it's game on here. And T.O. and Rob, we all have our bank accounts and we all have our, what we're spending on per month. Well, my allocation of funds is getting rearranged a little bit this week because my Guardians are in the Bronx to take on the Yankees. So I'm pulling out my Costanza wallet that I get made fun of for. So
look at that thing.
Oh my gosh, you still have a wallet.
It's the biggest wallet I've ever seen in my life.
This thing is way too big.
That's what she said.
And I'm spending money on my baseball team. So let's go to SEC. Like, yeah. When people are seeing, that's where it just means more, Terrence. That's where your point is well taken.
That's where I'm at. Yeah, that's where
that guy saying in the room, you know what? Yeah, it means more to me because my ego's going into this. Like Alabama basketball, that donor base has had to have an incremental financial increase in what's going into their facilities and then what's going into paying their players. And that's why when you think about Nate Oates, I know this is where you're going. Nate Oates right now is one of the coaching faces of college basketball for the job that he's done at Bama. Oh, by the way, he's got roster continuity. Mark Sears is one of the faces of this sport. Think about this. What if I told you, T.O. and Rob, that 5 years ago, Alabama would have one of the faces of college basketball, and it wouldn't be like a one-and-done freshman. It'd be a veteran type of player. They've got that.
I never would have thought it. And it was one of those things where I remember having these conversations in like the 2015 area, like when we were looking at the SEC getting 3 teams, and it's like, why aren't they better?
Yeah.
Why aren't they better? It doesn't make sense that they're not better because they're good at baseball and they're good at football and there's plenty of athletes and there's plenty of basketball players that come out of the Deep South, right? Why aren't they better? And they found a way.
South is loaded. They're just they all used to go to the SEC. Or the ACC, the ACC. Yep.
So
it's not the case anymore.
Yeah, and I think that they've found a way. A lot of it has to do with money. A lot of it has to do with the fact that like fans love hitching their wagon to winners. A lot of it has to do with I went to the Auburn Kentucky game last year at Auburn, right? And Auburn lost, but that environment was still awesome and it was rocking. And they had I think it's like a 7,500, 8,000 seat arena that is completely, absolutely, utterly packed to the gills.